Good morning, my garden and YouTube friends. I'm just getting back from my half-hour walk and I'm a little out of breath, but I just wanted to show you what I get to see when I'm coming down the street. Most of the other homes, they might have a tree that was planted by the developer, but for the most part, it's pretty clean in the front, and they really aren't into color. And when I get to my house, I get to see this beautiful stand of marigolds that was really just an accident. I had the marigold seeds and planted them in little pots, and they looked like they were going to survive and thrive. And they were volunteer seeds that I've had for a few years, and so I planted them, the little 2-inch starts, and they just kept growing higher and higher and higher, and they've taken over everything. Now this is an African marigold that originated in Mexico. Go figure. Anyway, they just love this spot, and I think that's so important, is that this gets the morning sun. We are strictly, there's the sun coming up. It's still a little early, but this will catch the sun from, about 8 o'clock, 8:30 is when it comes over this 2-story house on the other side, and it will go over directly, and this will be noon. Will be right here over the tree, and then it actually gets a little of the afternoon sun, whereas this one has no shade, so it gets full sun from that 8:30 till maybe 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. It goes back. And so it's putting your plants in just the right spot. Now, before this elm tree, this is a elm tree, and you can see from the skin peeling, pardon me, I'm wisping hair from my face because it was a little windy before. But this area here used to be in full sun, and so it was hard for anything to really come up and grow. And now it gets the protection from the elm tree, and so I get a lot more shade-loving blooms. But I wanted to show you my Japanese giant red mustard. I mean, isn't that to die for? It's not only gorgeous, but it's actually just delicious. And I took some little sprouts that I had in a tray, and I've planted them all along here. And I thought they're going to be a beautiful ornamental to accent underneath the azalea now that it's finished blooming. But also I can come out and I can pick, and I like the idea of the cut and come again, where you pick the leaves that are just down underneath and then just leave the big ones in the center. And so it's just delicious. You can have it raw. It has a little bite to it if you like that. If not, it's great in a wrap, or if you want to wilt it and you do it as like a stir fry. It's very good. It's very good, and it's very healthy, by the way. It has a great amount of vitamin C in it. I understand that it's even healthier than spinach. So, Popeye, try it, and you'll see you'll be healthy forever. The Coleus, of course, are just the volunteers that are coming back. As a matter of fact, there is actually Coleus down underneath that, but the marigolds and the red mustard are taking over. What else do I have? Oh, the marigolds here are coming out, and a little penta, and the blue days. It was blooming there for a while, and now it seems to be taking a little rest. You can see the Coleus in the back. Let me straighten poor Gwendolyn. Her poor little hat keeps getting knocked off by the wind, and then her boyfriend, the gecko, Sir Lancelot, likes to sit on her bill, and he also likes to puts it on the rim of her hat. I think he looks at it as protection. Coleus is just all volunteers. It's all volunteers from last year. And the gardenia that I planted out here, I had over 100 blooms off of this, and that was just magnificent. I mean, people were coming down the street and going, wow, I can smell it. I can't see it, but I can smell it. And then, of course, when they got close enough, then they could see it. The Impatience, again, volunteers in my yard. I planted them about 10 years ago, and they come back every year. We love having this border that I put in quite some time ago. The stones, of course, are just big stones from the front. The little stones I put in, it was a landscape fabric, and I folded it over so that it was 4 ply rather, I'm sorry, and then the stones over top of it. So this is probably 6 years, and very seldom, I'm saying that very seldom, but see, I see a little weed that's coming up in here. So I can, but if this were normal, it would just have taken over, the weeds would have taken over. Here in Florida, you just, weeds are with you. That's it. You have no choice. You're always pulling weeds, or you're spraying it with something. And I try to do my yard in a very organic way. Crepe Myrtle is just, boy, you can see those tips are tiny. They're almost getting ready to start forming bloom heads. And again, this is mid-May, and I will guess in the next 2 weeks we will start to see color on the end of those. My bones, my staples back here are the dwarf wheeler mock orange that was only supposed to get a foot high, and it's probably up, well, it's past my hip now. And the arbicolas in the back, they've just been totally enveloped by them, and they are in big clay pots, but you don't see them anymore. So I think it's going to have to be a day to clip back and try and get some control of my my front yard here again. I have my vegetables growing up, and edibles growing up the center here. Marigolds, these are French marigolds that have that little smaller head, and they're kind of have like a little round of petals. The petals look almost like little seashells, little cups. And behind that, I've got Shasta Daisies here, and on the left are forget-me-nots. And then behind that, I've got actually the 2 trays, and then one behind that are balsam. It's a peppermint balsam. It's supposed to smell like peppermint. The blooms are red and white that are supposed to come out, I hope soon. And they're edible. And then underneath that, I planted some Chinese red cabbage. It's Amaranth. And oops, I see one of my balsam has kind of gotten knocked over here, and I don't know if it's gotten knocked over or just pushed. There we go. And I only planted these planters on the 7th of May, so it's really only been 8 days. I planted a couple mango seeds in these 2 pots. And then here I wanted to show you this. This is the balsam from the 2 trays, but look what's coming up. And these are all the little amaranth. And so this is supposed to be a really incredible Chinese leaf that, again, is supposed to be extremely healthy. I planted weeks before, a few weeks ago, I planted some others. But you can see something is getting in there and chewing them. So I think these are going to be taken out of these pots. And these are the yellow tomatoes that came from Baker's Creek. And it's funny because I'm getting lots and lots of greens with it, and it's not really setting the blooms. You can see I've got lots of blooms, but nobody's really setting any fruit. And I don't know if it's because we've had a whole week of 90 and 92, and I can come out and water, but you can see that, let me turn it around, you can see that this is where the sun's going to come from, and it's kind of going to move over, and move over to here. And so it's pretty hot. And even though I try to keep that as cool as possible and try to keep it well watered, I do have a problem with that. The basil is over a year old, and I've gotten loads and loads of basil from it. I just keep coming out and picking so that I cut the blooms off, and then it'll keep producing. And this is the Japanese red mustard again. In the smaller, if you keep it in the pot, the leaves kind of stay a little smaller, and then I can just come out and pick. And I think those are really good eaten fresh. As they get bigger and they get a little spicier, you might want to think about cooking and putting them in a stir fry or something. I think you can see my Norfolk pines are still hanging in there. They're the staple in the yard. And as we go along here, then I've got, this is moss rose, Purslane is what it's called, and it grows really almost like a weed. It's also an edible, and it has little kind of a yellowy orange, very small bloom to it, and I think I planted like one little sprig last year, and I mean it really is invasive, so you do have to keep it in a controlled situation, because I planted it back there and it has grown all along here, and it's popped up over here. So it just kind of goes on the wind. But I mean, if you had a spot where you really needed coverage, this would be the beast. And as you can see, it even grows really well in the cracks. My Bougainvillea are just a staple. Again, they're still blooming. We've cut them back, and I've trimmed them up, and I keep taking the tops off, and they keep blooming quite well. And I also have the Amaryllis. I wanted to tell you about that. Now, these are the ones that I had in pots. I think I might have another couple pots tucked in somewhere. But here is, let's see, 5, 9, 12 pots. And you've got quite a few to choose from as far as who's the prettiest. And there's, the blooms have, I've taken the blooms off. Let me see if I can get closer. Taking the blooms off. And can you see that this is moss rose? It's actually, like jumps into a pot. So you really have to be careful. But can you see that I've got babies on the side? They weren't there at the beginning of the season. Those are the ones that I did, I called them the kindergartners, and they were just tiny little bulbs that maybe an inch, and didn't even look like they were going to survive. Well, obviously they have. Now, with these, I can either treat these as a, you can just pull some of that dead stuff away if you want, and you want to clean them up. I could take these inside at this point, because their requirements are pretty low light level, or they can sit out in my garden, and I can tuck them in and around to add some green drama, to add some interest in a particular spot. If I really need something to look so just perfect, if I want to tuck in here and there. So, and here's one tray of lettuce that has just gone to the end, and I pulled all of my stuff over here this morning. This is my messy spot, and I'm just getting ready to get out here Saturday morning and try and get some stuff done. By the way, the Bougainvillea, people ask me, how do I keep it? How did I trim it? Well, it was nothing more than a couple like this. This is, this is a shoot off the bottom, as you can see. And they had been trained up this little wooden post here that has since broken off. And this is probably about 11 years old. And it was just two of those. And they kind of twisted around and they let it grow up. Let me back off here. And then I just kept, cutting it off, letting it grow up, cutting it off, letting it grow up, and kept training it into the up position, into the vertical position. And then I would kind of let it hang over and bloom. And then when those blooms dropped off, then I'd cut those back, and then it would send up new shoots that were higher. And eventually, instead of one shoot, it would divide, and it would be two, and then those two would be four, and then those four would be, on and on. And so here's what you have. And I've got two of them. And I hate them completely because I'm always in the I need to prune them, and also that they're very, they have thorns. So I'm always being torn up by them. But when I'm finished with them and they're beautiful, I love them. People just come by and say, oh, it's so beautiful and it's so nice to hear. So those are the Bougainvillea. I hope everybody will try this, or at least people who are in warmer climates, or keeping it, in a protected area. Here's some more Bougainvillea. I'm sorry, here's some more Amaryllis that they just stay in the ground all year. There's no use in me potting them. I've got some empty little messy here, but also these are Cosmos, and I planted these seeds a couple weeks ago. What do I have there? Yeah, 5/2, so May 2nd. So it's been just almost 2 weeks. And I think I'm about ready to try and transplant them and see what I can do with them. This is Nixora. It's very it's heat tolerant. It's drought resistant. It's it grows in adverse conditions. If you don't like it, it seems to grow better than if you try to take really good care of it. I leave this one alone, and it does quite well. Needs to be pinched back a little bit. But I think that's about it on the front yard that's growing here. The only thing is on the other side. Then I have, sorry about the light, these are Calladiums. And I can't remember the variety. I want to say this is a Florida White. And this is a Fanny Munson. That's a Fanny Munson. And this is a Dragonheart. So they're obviously very happy in my yard. Liriope, this is the greens, is almost a weed. I say almost because everyone sells it, and you're probably looking at a couple $100 at least in plants there if I were to go out and buy them, perhaps more. But a year or so ago, I dug up some plants, and I hello there, little chameleon. How are you this morning? Eat some bugs, buddy. Anyway, I dug them up from another area, and I divided them. And I mean, you divide them almost like grass with a little bit longer root system. And I tucked in, there's probably 5 across and 5, 10, 20, maybe 35, 40 plants that came from maybe 2 plants. And this is a year and a half later, and I could take each one of those up and divide them again. So, sorry about that. And so anyway, that's it that's going on in my garden. The ligustrum looks great. She hasn't gotten any Cercospora yet, and so we'll keep an eye on that. And I am in Florida, and we're not only fighting, like my shadow there. I'm very tall, aren't I? Ooh, I look tall and thin here, standing next to the flag. And so that's my May tour, middle of May tour anyway. Everything still looks so pretty. I really wanted you to see it. I still have a couple Amaryllis here that are blooming. So pretty. Such a pretty bloom. For anybody who has never grown an Amaryllis, may I suggest you try. It is so rewarding to see that. Beautiful. There's no fragrance, but boy, they sure are pretty. Anyway, thanks for coming to visit. I hope you guys will come back again. And if you're ever in Florida and you're in Windermere and you're driving down my street, you'll know it, won't you? It's not like you can just drive by and not go, "Ooh, wow, those are some beautiful marigolds." Anyway, I hope you will all garden what you've got and get out and see something in Mother Nature today that just makes you smile, because this is what makes me smile, and this is what makes me happy, and getting up in the morning and listening to the wind chimes and the birds and seeing all this beautiful nature. So garden what you've got, and I hope you'll come back. I hope you'll subscribe and ring the bell so that anytime I do post something new, you get a notice. I'm back. Take care, you all. Bye-bye.